Hey everyone, this is Roger from Almost in Full Color, and we are in February, which means we got 5 new games with Twitch Prime. The theme of this month was like nostalgia, old style games, or games that had a retro feel. So let's get into it. As I mentioned earlier, all these games kind of had like a feel of an older style game with newer graphics, or was just an old school style game. And first up, we had American Fugitive, which is an open world sandbox game that came out in 2019 and got a Metacritic score of 66. And this is normally $20 on Steam. The first thing you'll notice about this game, it reminds you a lot of GTA style back in GTA 1 or 2, but with a lot of upgraded graphics. And the graphics are really good here. You can see car damage, bullets. There's times where you can see you're hiding in like tall grass. So there's a lot of cool stuff going on here. The houses had a lot of details. And also what they took from GTA was the island lock feature. There's bridges that are blocked off by cops, and if you go past them, your warrant level goes up because they're searching for you for when you escape from jail. So the basis of this story was you went to your dad's house, and he got murdered, and they thought you did it, so you escaped jail, and you're kind of fugitive. And this reminded me a lot of like a Dukes of Hazzard style area. It was like y'all were always in trouble, and you had this corrupt cop family that was after you, and you kind of mess with them. Like one of the first missions you get is you go and get the police car, take it to the scrapyard, and get it converted to a cube, and then drop it back off at the restaurant the cop was at. So it's a lot of like Dukes of Hazzard feel I had with this. The story was enough to hold you around. There was some awkwardness and repetitiveness that did kick in. Like when you broke into a house, you would just get this 2D view drafting scenario where you just kind of move around. You only had a certain amount of time and you had to leave before the cops show up. So that was cool at first, but it did get repetitive. And then there was like a really rough mission where you had to steal $200 from houses to pawn. So you had to steal like watches and earrings and stuff like that. And that actually took me like 10 minutes, and it was just a long mission. But other than that, I was really enjoying the time. The controls are really smooth. You do have to remember it's a 2D looking down game. So when you're going down on the screen, left doesn't turn you left, it actually turns you right. So you have to remember that. But other than that, it was really smooth, and I would say download this. Overall, this was a really fun game. The positives here is it's a GTA-style clone. The negative here would be that top-down view. If you just don't like that, you're not going to like this game. Next up, we have Desert Child, which was an old-school RPG game that came out in 2018 with a Metacritic score of 60 and was $12. This was an old-school racing RPG, just to clarify better. And the style of the game was very unique. It was this 8-bit style, and walking in the cities looked amazing. You start on Earth, and you have to earn enough money to go to Mars to race and win the Grand Prix. And, like, you only have this one street on Earth to go through, but you had to eat food, upgrade, or sell parts to your vehicle until you could upgrade it. And it was really cool. I liked it. The weird part was controlling in the city was odd. So it was like this 3D view, but you only had a 2D plane to walk on. You had a set path left to right, and it got confusing. So like here in this like shady area of town in Mars, I thought I could only walk to like the middle of the screen, but if I kept pushing forward, there was a whole new path. It's just, I looked like I was in this shop. And then there was times where like some views was just showing your feet, so that wasn't too great to me. But overall, I did like the style. The actual gameplay was this 2D side-scrolling racing game that you've seen a lot of. And the goal here was to either win or lose the race because it's RPG, and there was times you could earn money for throwing a race. And you also get money by destroying TVs on the track. And the RPG elements were pretty well. You got to upgrade your bike. You had to keep eating to keep your health up. There's a decent leveling system, and there's various missions that were evolved around racing. But this is where it kind of got old fast, because I did this hacking mission. I'm like, oh, I'm going to get something different. It might be this cool little hacking scene. No, it was just a race that was kind of funny. I did like it because there's these Windows symbols floating around. But you were still racing. It was still the same platform you were doing, so it wasn't really much variance. And overall, I would say not to download this. The positives here was the style of the game. I really liked that a lot, but the negative was the racing itself. The actual gameplay was just repetitive after a while, and it got repetitive really fast. Next up, we had Narcos, Rise of the Cartels, and this was $30, and this was a turn-based strategy game based off the Netflix show. This did come out in 2019, like I said, and shockingly enough, this got 45 on Metacritic. I think this was the lowest Twitch Prime game I've seen. The production was really, really good. And what I meant by that, there was actually cutscenes from the show. They had a lot of the same voice actors from the show in the game, and there was a good storyline. Like, a lot of that went well with this. The overall gameplay will remind you a lot of XCOM or Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle. You have to hide behind walls, and you get full coverage, half coverage, and depending where everybody's at is where they can hit you. So if someone's above you, and you're behind full coverage, that means they can still hit you because they can see over it. Yeah. And the XCOM feel was when a guy dies, he is dead. Like, you don't get him back. You have to hire another recruit or something like that. And before I get into the gameplay, the actual menus and, like, upgrading people was pretty cool. I thought that was really well in depth. And this game was entertaining, even though I'd never seen the show. Just like the other Netflix game, Stranger Things, I played a couple months back. I never seen that one. This was the same here. But I felt like it was a pretty entertaining story, and it was moving along. The negatives I had was when your turn came up, you can only move one character at a time. And that felt like the strategies were really limited. I couldn't move like all 5 of my characters around to figure out the best positions or nothing like that. It was just I can only move one. And you kind of get greedy with that, so I kept moving my leader. And if your leader dies, you had to restart the whole mission. But the leader the guy I had a shotgun, and he did 5 damage. And that was really good. Like, most enemies were 5. So, it became me mostly moving my one character, maybe another one every now and then, but that would put me in awkward scenarios. But I didn't feel like wasting like 5 turns to move each of my characters up every time. So, this game is on the violent side, I will admit. I tried to cut it down some, but I'm sure some of it was shown. So, that may be bad for you. But overall, I do recommend this as a download. It was $30, and if you really like the show, I think this would be a big positive. It wasn't bad gameplay at all. I think it will be a nice something to continue the show for you if you were a big fan. And if the negatives here is that whole one character moving. That did get a little old, but it didn't really stop me from playing enough. Next up, we had Sterden, which came out in 2015, and this is a space shooter. The Metacritic score here was 80, and it's normally $13. And this was a very cool throwback to like 16-bit side-scrolling shooters. The best game I could compare this to is the Gradius. I was a big fan of Gradius back on the Super Nintendo, and this had some feels from that. I wouldn't say they were based off each other. I felt like it was influenced there, but the gameplay is not at all like it. But overall, the graphics was really good. I enjoyed the look of the ship, the bad guys, the bosses, everything about it looked really good to me. This game is hard. Once you die, you have to go back to the beginning. When you die, you'll see a graph of how far you went with what bad guys you fought. And if you when you died, you start right back at the beginning. So that was very hard. This wouldn't be one of the hard, difficult space shooters you normally see. I tried to play those before, and I felt like those games were extremely hard. I think the hardness here was you kind of got a lot of the bullets everywhere on the screen, but it was manageable. I didn't feel like I had to go crazy with it. And you also regained health after every boss, so you kind of always got fresh start on each level. You were allowed to carry 2 weapons at a time, and there was 35 weapons in total. But this game was based on a lot of random generated stuff. Like, anytime you died and restarted, you wouldn't get the same layout of bad guys. You would get different stuff. So it was always a different playthrough. So it wasn't like it was horribly repetitive. And the randomness made it interesting. And it made it difficult too, because maybe you don't get the good pool of weapons dropping for you. Like, my favorite weapon was the shotgun I found. That was pretty cool. And then these laser things where you could plant and they would just keep shooting the boss. They were very helpful, and you could lay 2 at a time, and those were good, but I couldn't get them after another playthrough. And what was also unique about this was when you killed a boss, there would be like 5 or 6 upgrades, and you had to select one to continue on the next stage. So some would be like weapon damage, shields, stuff like that. And that's what made the game really interesting. I enjoyed this a lot. It was very simple, wasn't really too long. I think the average gameplay most people are talking about was 2.5 hours. But it kept me entertained, and overall I recommend this as a download. This was really well made game overall. It brought me back to what I remembered best about the space shooting games on Super Nintendo without feeling held back. The negative would be the difficulty here. I thought it could be challenging for people that don't like these games. Last but not least is White Knight, which is a horror puzzle game that came out in 2015 as well and got Metacritic score 68 and is normally $15 on Steam. This had a weird style. It was called White Knight, and the whole game is in black and white. It did look cool though. I kind of liked the feel of this game. It did make it suspenseful, and the white and black was very important here because you always wanted to stay in the light, because if you were in the shadows, you would eventually die if you were in there too long. Your screen, music starts playing, your controller started shaking, so you wanted to stay out of that, and the white and black kind of worked well with that. So this game was based around the 30s, around the Great Depression. You kind of was driving away from, like, following someone, or you were like a detective, and this ghost girl runs out, and you wrecked by a mansion, and I think there's a murderer that lives there. It was all kind of weirdness going on, but basically you had to solve puzzles in the mansion, and there was this helpful ghost that was a singer called Selena. I didn't finish all of this game, but it seemed pretty cool. I liked it. It was an interesting story. The narrator was really good. They would show like the old 30s movie where the text in the middle, and I thought that was really well. The story was really interesting. But I had some trouble with the puzzles. Not that they were hard, that it kind of was like misleading. So I had 2 pieces of wood for a fireplace, and you had to find more wood in order to start the fire. I put one piece down, found the other one, put that down, and still said you needed more wood before you could start the fire. And I looked around, then I ended up dying because I just couldn't figure out what to do, and I found out how to die, which I'll talk about later. But I found the same 2 pieces of wood and retried it, and I got the same text, but I hit it again just for pure luck, and I was able to still start the fire. So it seemed misleading, which was kind of annoying. So basically there was these evil ghosts you'll see. They were very shady. You would see them in these cutscenes, and of course you always die on the first one because you're like, oh, there's a friendly ghost, this one ain't bad. And then that one beats you up or something, and then you restart from your last checkpoint. And the goal here is to kill them with light. It was scary at first. I did jump once, to be fully clear, so it was like this fear. But then they just kind of got annoying, because that was the only scary thing in there was that ghost. And then it would be like, you would open a door, and then the ghost would be there, and you're like, oh crap, I gotta run away. Like, you just had no reaction afterwards. So it was like scary first, but then, like I said, it was annoying. It was like, oh, I see the little shadiness over here, I can't go there, so let me find where to go next. So it was more like blocking your path until you solved the puzzle. The fixed camera was a problem here, so a lot of the rooms just had a fixed camera. And the problem is, when you start walking to another section, your camera will move, and your controls change to the respective of the camera. So if you're walking left to go to the side, and the camera changes where you're supposed to keep walking down, you would just run into the wall, or sometimes just go back to the other thing because the camera changed completely. And that's just always frustrating to me. I complained about it before in other videos I made, the fixed camera with that issue. But that did get annoying. And overall, I just kind of ended up getting bored really fast. Like, the story and the narration was extremely good, but it wasn't enough to hold me where I would say, do not download this game. Again, the story was amazing. That was all the positives I had. I just lost interest. It was just weird. Like, it was kind of cool at first. I was enjoying the look and style. But then after a while, it just was, like I said, the ghosts were just annoying. I was trying to figure out the puzzle, and then it just wasn't really a game much afterwards for me. But anyways, those were the 5 titles that came out. I recommended 3 of them. So those would be probably enough to last you until next month when we get 5 more games. It's weird they've been doing this 5 game. It used to be 4 for a while. I kind of missed the 4 because it was a lot easier to review 4 games instead of 5. But, I mean, we're getting free games. Why am I complaining? But these were really good, and I enjoyed all of them overall. And like I said, a lot of the ones I said not for, you may have reasons to play it, and I hope you do. And you find those games enjoyable versus what I did. Everyone has their own taste, and that's kind of why I wanted to start at this, is to show my opinions and try to give a balance of why someone would play a game I wouldn't recommend. But anyways, always leave comments in the comment section of what you liked from this month. And as always, please like and subscribe to the channel for more gaming content. Peace.